All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So the last week of the preseason is here, right? Jets, Eagles, Friday night, short turnaround, right? Game obviously last Saturday. Now this week it's Friday. Personally, there's a lot of stuff I want to dive into. There's a lot of maybe points that I want to hit on for this Jets team this week, right? It's the last crack. It's the last opportunity. To my knowledge, the Jets and the Eagles will not be having a joint practice, so you have one more opportunity, one more showcase for this Jets team, and take your pick on whatever avenue you want to roll with, right? Whether that's the starters playing, whether that's the passing game, whether it's young players on the roster, whether it's positional battles, Malachi Corley, all tons of storylines, right? But the point is, one more opportunity for these guys, one more opportunity to, get out on the field and show what you can do. I felt like overall the Jets looked pretty impressive against the Packers, right? From the first team down to the second team, so forth and so on. Second week against the Giants, not so much. But again, it's preseason here. That's why preseason is a thing. That's why it's implemented, to get teams ready to kind of ramp onto the highway, which is the regular season here. So really, when you're looking at this Friday's game against Philly, there's a lot of questions that we can bring up in regards to this game, in regards to this last showcase opportunity. And I think the first thing up here is the injuries, right? Right now, Monday, August 18th, we don't have a ton of clarification on where the starting defensive line stands, right? We know what these guys are dealing with, Cowart, Quinn, and everybody. But as far as what the practice schedule is looking like this week, as far as them actually rolling out starters against the Eagles, that is completely up in the air. And it's a bit unfortunate, right? Because you're looking at guys like Jermaine Johnson. He's missed pretty much the entirety of training camp. You're looking at Quinn Williams. He's missed an extended period. Cowart is missed an extended period. Will McDonald was held out last week. Now, it doesn't sound like there's anything major going on here, but when you literally have the starting defensive line, first year with a new defensive coordinator, new scheme, new play caller, yeah, you want to try to get some chemistry going. So I'm really, really hoping that this week leading up to that Eagles game, there's tons of opportunities, there's tons of snaps, tons of reps for these guys all out on the field to get going. Of course, I'm not saying rush anyone back from injury, but if they're good to go, they're good to go. I'm putting them out there. Now, as far as the game goes on Friday, should we see the starting defensive line? It's always this back and forth argument. On one hand, it's very important to get these guys reps. It's very important to get these guys going in this system. But then on the other hand, all four players are coming off injury. Do you want to risk another one? Do you necessarily know if these guys are going to be playing because it's preseason? They're not going to, almost playing like they don't want to get hurt, which in turn causes a lot of injuries. It's just this, again, back and forth debate that you never really know. Only time will tell. Only time will have the answers to. But for me personally, I would not mind to see the starting group out there. I understand it's preseason, but I just think the reps are valuable. We're seeing Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase participating in that first preseason game. Why? Because they start slow. The Bengals start slow every season. So the idea is, okay, hey, you know what? If we can maybe get these guys going earlier, maybe we don't come out so sluggish and dazed out of the gate. Maybe we're a little bit more on point and on top of things to get the season going. So in my opinion, I think it would be different if we were just dealing with one injury or two injuries, but we're dealing with the whole starting defensive line here. Yeah, I want to see these guys together at the very least, one drive. Of course, assuming that everyone's 100% healthy and good to go. But before we dive into the next big question here, I want to give a special shout out to today's video sponsor, Mando. They actually sent me over their starter pack consisting of a bunch of different whole body deodorants. You kind of go through on their website, pick which scents, pick what you want. Tons of different options, sprays, creams, sticks. All their deodorant is aluminum free, cruelty free, dye free, and it's formulated without sulfates or parabens. And you also get 72-hour odor control Jetscentral. This one's my personal favorite. It's the Invisible Cream Pro Sport. This is the one I've been using the most. And if you use code Jetscentral over on shopmando.com, you'll get 20% off plus free shipping site-wide, right? So you can do starter pack, site-wide, doesn't matter, 20% off plus free shipping. The link will be listed down below in the description box. Thanks so much to Mando for sponsoring the video. So we talked about the defensive line before, but really it feels like the biggest storyline coming out of that Giants game has been the passing attack or lack thereof. Justin Fields not really pushing the ball down the field. It doesn't really seem like the Jets want to do anything creative, anything complex in preseason. Is that by design? I mean, we've heard stories from reporter after reporter about how Tanner Engstrand is building the offense around Justin Fields, really trying to show off his skill set, dialing up and coming up with different plays and opportunities for Garrett Wilson to specifically get him the football. Are we seeing any of that? No. We're seeing very simple stuff, very vanilla passing concepts, just, it's very bare bones. So I think off of that point, we're not even seeing a lot of it. We're not seeing Justin out there for 2-3 quarters. It's a drive or two. And granted, he's played in both games, but we are really keeping this playbook closed. Really keeping it closed here. So I think based off of that understanding, common sense would tell you, okay, once the regular season hits, the offense should look maybe less clunky and less, to be, lack of a better term, less boring. Hopefully we open it up a little bit. Hopefully we get Justin's legs going. You obviously don't want a guy like that taking hits in the preseason, whether it's Fields or any other quarterback. But we haven't seen anything really over like 20 yards. But again, we're just not really seeing a whole lot of action. But it's kind of funny because it's like when Adrian Martinez steps in, when Brady Cook steps in, there's intermediate plays happening almost every single drive. Boom, boom, boom. Whether it's incomplete, complete, doesn't matter. They're still calling these plays. So I don't think it's a situation where Tanner Engstrand is just inept and he's just not putting 2 and 2 together. It feels like the Jets are holding the first team offense back as far as what they're being asked to do with play calls on purpose. Now, granted, that could just be me being optimistic, but that's just what signs are pointing to in my opinion, right? If I'm just looking at the situation objectively, I was talking to my brother about it. He's not a Jets fan. I'm like, hey, what's your take? He's just like, Fields is a runner. Fields is not running in preseason. Fields also has a really good deep ball and a really strong arm. We're not seeing that stuff in preseason either. He's not hitting the panic button. And I appreciated his take because he's not, so dialed into like the New York media and headlines and stuff like that. So he's kind of approaching the situation with fresh eyes, and I agree with him. I do think once the regular season gets here, the playbook will open up. And it's kind of funny because that's been the MO of preseason my entire life. You don't want to be winning preseason games because you're out coaching the other team. And when I say out coach, I mean you're dialing up specific plays, third and shorts, not going for it in certain situations. Like all that stuff is just, it's again, kind of this showcase opportunity for whoever you want, right? Whether it's positional battles, young players of the roster, trying to determine who's going to make the practice squad, getting your starters reps if you want. Some teams do it, some teams don't. Some teams have, one approach. Other teams have different approaches. It's all, these games don't matter. We've seen fantastic teams get blown. Buffalo, the Bills just got humiliated last night, 38-0. Another benefit of not being overly creative, overly complex in the passing game during preseason is that chances are you're just trying to get the football out of the quarterback's hands quickly. Like Green Bay, New York, right? I think a lot of Jets fans walked away from the Packer game, only 4 pass attempts, feeling pretty good. I feel like a lot, the notion against the Giants, 1 for 5, not so good. But in both cases, the ball was coming out quickly. Even like if we just take a look at those incompletions, Armand Membu gets beat. Okay, Fields is already looking one way to deliver the pass, right? Kayvon Thibodeau in the backfield, he has to jump to try to make a play. The design quick throw out to Garrett Wilson, that was just a bad snap by Joe Tippmann, so the play was botched immediately. Nothing really Garrett can do, nothing really Fields can do in that situation. It's another quick throw. As an offensive coordinator, I don't necessarily want to show my cards. I don't want to have these long developing plays down the field where any quarterback, really, any starting quarterback, I should say, I don't want Josh Allen taking these big dropbacks, going up against defenders who are trying to earn their spot, earn their position on their team. If they have an opportunity to sack Patrick Mahomes, I can sack Joe Burrow, I'm going to do that. I'm going to fly in there like a missile and take them down. So these offensive coordinators, I do think it's smart to say, hey, let's just go out there, not really put a lot on display, get the football out quickly, limit these guys' chances of being hit. So I think for me, when it comes to Friday, should Justin Fields start? How long should he be out there if he does in fact start? Obviously, it's a pretty big discussion, a pretty big talking point. I think it will continue to be all throughout this week, really. I actually would not mind seeing Fields let it rip a little bit, right? Completions, incompletions, picks, touchdowns, whatever happens. I think getting the reps is important for Fields at this stage. Again, one last opportunity here. It's not like we have... Yes, of course, we're going to have practices up leading until the regular season, but as far as these showcase opportunities where you're looking at a different defense, you're looking at different players, you have guys just flying. These are live bullets, in other words. These are opportunities to get better, and I really feel like Fields is in a position where he needs to be playing. He needs to be actually repping out different situations for him to get better. I don't, again, at this stage in Fields' career, he's not a rookie. He's started games. He's learned different offenses. I think he needs reps. Now, what's happening behind the scenes? That's a big question here, because if Fields is letting it rip down the field, if he's hitting guys over the middle of the field, if they're just simply calling these plays, I think that's a win. And I understand, again, from Tanner Engstrand, from Aaron Glenn's perspective on not wanting to do that in these preseason games where other teams are watching. Like, you better, Mike Tomlin, Arthur Smith, these guys are watching the Jets preseason games. If they haven't already, they will be. They will be. So again, I get it from that standpoint, especially if they're doing it behind closed doors, where maybe they do feel comfortable and they're like, hey, we don't necessarily need to put this on display. We don't necessarily want to put it on display for everyone to see, for the world to see. We can do it in our facility. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I'm really curious to see where you stand on it. How long should Fields go? Do you think he needs a lot of reps? Do you think the Jets are maybe saving stuff, holding stuff back, keeping the lid on their playbook closed? Or do you think these guys are just inept, right? Because I've seen a couple comments basically saying that the season's over. So yeah, anyway, interested to see where you guys stand on it. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, go Jets.